Hello, clever people, and welcome to my review for the two Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So part 4 in my MCU marathon is the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. The first one came out back in 2014, the second one in 2017, and both of these movies follow groups of people who are called the group of 5 called the Guardians of the Galaxy. That includes Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and Groot. And these are a gang of 5 misfits who meet randomly and really a chance of coincidence, and they have to form together to try to escape a jail, and from there they are forced to be with each other until they complete a certain mission, but they form a very strong friendship. They go through a lot together, as you have seen in both movies and Avengers Infinity War, and I'm sure you will see in Avengers Endgame. It's a very strong group of people, and it follows them basically as they go on galactic adventures throughout the galaxy. So I will be starting off with the first one, which was just Guardians of the Galaxy. When this movie came out, it was really the first big risk that Marvel was taking, because it wasn't one of their assured superheroes. It wasn't Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow. It wasn't anybody that the general audience knew. It was a brand new group of people, and it included like a talking tree, a raccoon that was talking, and it's so weird looking back on that now that we just can accept it. That's just considered so normal, even though at the time it was considered such a risk. But back when this movie came out, it shocked me. I was amazed by how entertaining, how fun, how lighthearted yet at the same time still very serious this movie was. Both of these movies are probably my 2 favorite MCU movies, and that is because they both have a great sense of humor and drama. They combine the two so well in a way I don't see other movies do very often. It's very hard to have a movie where almost every line is a joke, almost every scene has a joke in it, but you are still able to keep a very serious tone so that you know what's happening has very real consequences. But what I specifically love about this movie is the rewatchability of it. I have seen this movie at least, I don't know, probably 15 or 16 times, maybe even more. I have seen this movie so many times and I'm still not bored of it. I can predict every beat, I know almost every line, I know everything about this movie watching it. I was saying the lines in my head before they happened, but I'm still not tired of it. It's still such an entertaining movie, and that is because this is the best Marvel has ever done with characters. They understood who these characters were so well. Even better in the second one, but in the first one, they understood who the characters were, and they gave each and every one of them their own distinct personality, their own distinct backstory, their own distinct reasons for being involved in what the plot is about transporting the orb. They all had their own reasons, and they all brought their own thing to the table that made for such an entertaining dynamic and such an entertaining group. I don't have a whole lot of problems with the first Guardians of the Galaxy because it's hard to have a problem with a movie you've watched 16 times. You're almost numb to it, honestly. But that's not a problem for me with this movie because I still love it just as much as the first time that I saw it. It's such a well put together movie. It's so entertaining, and the soundtrack fits the movie so well. I mentioned in my Captain America review that you had started seeing Marvel movies take on different genres. It started with The Winter Soldier, which kind of took on a 70s spy Cold War thriller type feeling. This movie kind of took on a road trip movie kind of feeling. It's kind of hard to describe, but kind of like an 80s buddy road trip movie while still being a Marvel film, and that combination is incredible. I just love Guardians of the Galaxy so much. It's such a well put together movie, and I will give it an 8 out of 10. Alright, now we are moving on to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So, this one follows the story of Peter Quill as he is discovering who his dad is. In the first one, it was kind of a mystery. He didn't know because his mom had died when he was really young, and he was able to hold an Infinity Stone without dying. So, they went to figure out who his father was. He learned who it was, and it follows him as he is learning what it's like to have a father while also following every member of the group and how they're changing due to what's happening around them. I gotta say, as much as I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I believe that this one is superior by far. And I think that it is for three main reasons. There's three things that this movie does that the first one didn't that makes them so much better. One, the colors. This is easily the most colorful Marvel movie. I mean, just watch the trailer if you haven't seen the film, or just please go and watch the film because it's great. But the colors in this film are insane. There are so many shots in this film that you sit back and you think that is a painting. That is something I could hang up on my wall. Especially there's a shot of Gamora as she's just like sitting in this vast field of grass. It's just such a stunning shot. Two, the character. I mentioned that the first one, they did such a good job with establishing character, and that's why I like the first one so much. But what they did with this one is that they went to the next level with character. Rather than just giving everybody their own personality, it gave the group a personality. And what I really appreciate about it is that the group dynamic is still super strong here, but you see the problems that you see the actual groups have when they get older, when they've been together for longer. You start seeing some feuding in the group. You usually see a romance pop up in the group. But there are a few moments in this film, like when Rocket says something mean to Peter before he leaves to go hang out with his dad and be around there. And the stuff that he said, I think that it's Rocket Raccoon says something to him that's kind of mean, and then Peter Quill is like, do you always have to be like that rude? I don't want to say what his actual line is because there's a bad word in it, but just having that little moment between those two characters, you understood so much about them. You understood that even though they are friends and they have the friendly dynamic and banter about being mean to each other, it's getting annoying and it's weighing down on them. And that was so magical. And my number three is that this movie gets far more emotional than the first one did. And the emotions work, especially the end of the movie. They used the song Father and Son, and now I cannot hear that song and not think of Guardians of the Galaxy. That was such a perfect use of that song, but this movie really hits down on the emotions, and it works for what my number two reason was. The group feels alive. It feels like a real group that has real conflict, and because they feel so real, you get so connected to them that when something tragic happens to them, it really impacts you. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that the problem with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is that everybody's joking all the time, and that there's no room for seriousness, and that it gets annoying, but honestly, I thought that this movie did such an incredible job at having jokes coming at 1,000,000 miles per second every single second, yet I didn't get tired of the jokes. It never felt like there were too many jokes, and you still kept the drama and the emotion there so that it worked. Honestly, I am just amazed by this movie. I think that it is the second best Marvel movie. It is incredible. It's so well put together. Again, the colors. This is easily the most beautiful, probably big budget movie I have ever seen, and props to James Gunn and props to his artistic director and the cinematographer, because they made a film that is absolutely stunning. I have a couple problems with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I especially am upset with what they did with Gamora's character, making her more serious and less fun to be around. But I must say, I do love what they did with Drax's character. The reason I think that they understood character better in this movie than the first one, Drax is a perfect example of it. In the first movie, he was stoic, and it was fine because you understood his past, you understood why he would be that way. But him being more comfortable with the group in the second one, and also them understanding the character more, he came off as way funnier. Dave Bautista also did a great job. That's something else I forgot to mention. The acting in both of these films is great. It's some of the best acting in the MCU because they balance the comedy and the seriousness. I can go on and on about these movies. I know that this whole review has just been a giant ramble basically, but both of these movies, my favorite Marvel movies, are for good reason. They are hilarious, they are so fun to watch, they are serious, and it kind of reminds me of Star Wars. The original Star Wars that came out, the original trilogy, they were 3 years apart and they impacted an entire generation. I don't think that Guardians of the Galaxy will impact an entire generation quite like Star Wars did, but it's a popular film. Everybody is still talking about it. Everybody has been talking about it since it came out. And also, you have one coming out every 3 years. I've gotten to grow up with these movies. Growing up with the first one I saw when I was 11, I was very impressionable. I was still in elementary school. The second one coming out when I was in middle school, and it came out around the time I was graduating. I was very emotional during that time, so it was a perfect time for the movie to come out. And the third one is coming out my junior year. I'm sure it'll also be a great time for it. I just love that I got to grow up with these movies, that they're a part of my childhood now, and I can still look back and still watch them, and they're just as entertaining as they were the first time I watched them. So I will give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 an 8.5 out of 10. Alright, that concludes my ramble on both of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think about these movies? How would you rank them among the rest of the MCU? And that concludes my review. I'm Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.